I am back after 4 years, back to one of my favorite stores in the whole world. And 4 years ago I interviewed Patricia, and today her husband is here, and we are going to have an incredible interview with him and look at some more relics that I'm purchasing from World War II and World War I. I am so excited. So let's go. These are just some of the cool items that you find at this store. And as you can see, they have right outside recently found objects. This couple actually went around beaches of Normandy when they were children finding this stuff, and now they are finding collectors all over Normandy and older gentlemen and people that have these things in their possession. And I've never seen a store like this before, so I'm really excited. We're going to go in and have an interview, and I'll show you what I purchased.
But what is trench art? Trench art of World War I from 1914 to 1918 was made by soldiers in the trenches to pass the time. They turned shell casings and other found objects into pieces of art. Although many pieces were passed down from generation to generation, some were lost on the battlefield, and these artworks serve as a lasting legacy of the Great War. For my students, learning about trench art helps us gain a better understanding of these soldiers and family members who fought, died, and survived the First World War.
Good afternoon, welcome to the little shop that my wife and I help her run. And nice sunny day today, thank goodness. We've got a few bits and pieces found by chance, because you can't order these things. They're lying about in someone's home, and sometimes it can be somewhat appreciated. And the trench art things, they're from the First World War, and the men made things out of bits of metal that were lying around, and they made all sorts of things, letter openers and little things commemorating the place they came from, and they made decorative shell casings just using a hammer and a nail to scratch into them a design.
And you pointed out what was on the back.
Now this is a letter opener, but the bullet itself is a German bullet, and it was made in 1914. You've got the head stamp there.
Wow.
And it was made by a factory with the code S, which you can look up on the internet.
Now, here is possibly a question I'm going to get a lot of, and that is, we know the trenches for World War I went from around this area all the way to Switzerland. So is that, or how far were the trenches from Normandy?
Well, the main ones from the First World War were up in Northern France and Belgium.
Okay, further up then.
Further up, further north than here.
Okay.
Around here, the trenches that there are were German defensive trenches, because in the Second World War, although the Germans occupied France in 1940, they knew that sooner or later the Allies would mount an attack to try and land on French soil and beat the Germans back to Germany. And what the Germans did, they fortified the coast, because they knew that the Allies would be landing on the coast, and that meant they had to fortify 2,000 miles of coast, going from Denmark down to almost Spain.
Oh,
and
wow.
They used all sorts of guns. They had guns out of old battleships and First World War guns and Czechoslovakian guns, all sorts of different guns. And although on paper it looked a good idea, the problem was that when you've got lots of guns all using different ammunition, the supply to keep all the guns with a stock in case there's an Allied attack is enormous. And some guns, they had so little supplies, they were only allowed to do 2 practice firings a month.
Oh, wow.
And so, really and truly, although it looked good on paper, the defences were called the Atlantic Wall. And Hitler thought it was a very good defence, but the trouble with a wall is you've got to have men manning the wall all the way. The First World War was mainly fought with the Allies against the Germans who'd invaded Holland and Belgium and then come south, and they just got onto the edges of Northern France.
Okay. So where would this be from? Not exactly here, but a little bit further north then?
Well, we don't know exactly which trench it was made in.
Right.
But, of course, when the First World War finished, rather interestingly, it finished not because the Germans were defeated, but the German soldiers were so fed up with it, they just stopped fighting and went home. They took their guns with them and everything. They just said, "We've had enough of this," and they went home.
Yeah.
So the Allies were there and thought, "Well, fancy that."
Wow.
So all the little knickknacks that they made, the soldiers brought home to where they were living.
Yeah.
After the end of the war.
Wow. I just wanted to take a minute to show you close up the pieces that I brought home from Normandy. First piece you saw in the video, this is a letter opener with a German bullet. The bullet is from 1914. The code is S class for this bullet. The second piece that I brought home is this piece that's kind of like an adjustable bracelet, and it's kind of like made with all bullet casings, and there's a very cool design with bullets at the end. I actually saw this design in another piece, so this was probably something that was popular to do. Nevertheless, very cool piece, and I love this. The last piece in my collection I got in 2019 when I was in Bayeux, Normandy, for the 75th anniversary of D-Day. This piece is kind of primitive, kind of maybe very simple, but what I do love is at the end on the handle, the soldier went to a lot of detail to do a design work on the handle, and you could just imagine someone, I don't know, they might have needed like a magnifying glass to do it, but someone working on this in a trench for quite some time to get it just perfect. And then, of course, the last part of this are the men and the stories behind it. What happened to this soldier when he was finished making this? When he went into battle, did he make it out? Did he make it home? Where was this found? Did he ever leave the trench, actually? It's really interesting that these are personal stories, and it really brings history alive, not only for me, but also for my students. Anyway, if this is interesting, please stay tuned, because next up are the relics from D-Day found on the beaches of Omaha Beach, Point to Hawk, Utah Beach. That is really cool. It's not trench art, but there are various relics that were found on the beaches. Please stay tuned for that. Also, check the links. And if you're interested in listening to the podcast and different things, of course, the address for the shop, all of that is going to be in the links below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, thanks, bye.